Good evening. Leading our news bulletin, the man in the middle of last Saturday's shooting incident has now been remanded on bail awaiting trial at the local magistrate's court on the 18th of June. The number of charges that will be laid against him are uncertain at this stage, but Niue police have taken custody of his firearm. Provisions as to whether he will be able to own or use a firearm in future is also pending the outcomes of the case. Niue police also continue with their plea to firearm owners to be mindful and to take precautions when operating firearms, especially near public and residential areas. A 7.4 magnitude earthquake south of the Fiji Islands occurred this morning, with some rude awakening for some residents here on the island. According to international reports, the earthquake struck in the sea 285 kilometers southwest of Tonga's capital, Nuku'alofa, and was also recorded at 23.1 south or 176.6 west of the south of the Fiji Islands. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center responded. The earthquake was recorded at a depth of 208 kilometers or 129 miles. Many residents felt the shaking early morning, with some reporting loud humming noises around their homes. Niue's Met Services Director Sioneta Sipulhetoa said that there is no tsunami threat to the island. Mr. Pulhetoa said even though the magnitude was very high, sometimes the Pacific region is not much affected, unlike countries with high rises that can have a dramatic effect on the environment. Later in the morning, another 6.5 magnitude earthquake occurred in Tonga. The depth occurred at 144 kilometers depth at 20.7 south and 175.3 west of Tonga. No tsunami warning was expected from both the morning earthquake activities. Niue High School's internal assessment practices is under review this week by the New Zealand Qualification Authority as part of an annual analysis of schools and their performance according to the national standards. In 2002, Niue High School was part of changes to the qualification system from the prior 5th and 6th form certificates to what we now know as NCEA Level 1, 2 and 3 qualifications. This week, a school relationship manager, Rob Grant, has been working closely with staff at Niue High School and says that NZQA want parents to be confident that the results are credible and as good as results in any other schools in New Zealand. A workshop was organised with parents yesterday afternoon as an opportunity to go over details, why it is important for parents to understand the system and how they can help their children to achieve good grades, but also to show interest in how their children are doing in school.
Well, all parents want to know what their kids should be doing and how well they should be doing. So that's why they come along to parents' meetings. And it's no different here from anywhere in New Zealand. The 460 secondary schools in New Zealand all hold parents' meetings, and sometimes the school runs the meetings and sometimes an NZQA staff member runs the meetings. So we try to make sure that the parents have got a basic understanding of a qualification which is very different from the qualifications that existed in schools when they went to school. In the old days, qualifications were based on the expectation that half the people would fail, and that each year half the people would succeed and half would fail. Now we've changed all that. We now establish standards, and if everybody meets the standard, everybody succeeds. So that's the difference between the old qualifications and the new ones.
This annual review focuses on the internal assessment practices within the school to ensure that they are accurate, consistent and to the national standard. Rob Grant says this comes down to the teachers and processes they take when doing internal assessments.
The teachers are documenting their processes to make sure that the assessments they choose are fit for purpose, that they assess what they set out to assess and that they assess it in the right way. And then your teachers get their grade judgments on the kids' work verified by another teacher before they submit them to us. So we just have to make sure that they're continuing to do that. But yes, there's a good understanding of the requirements to do that internal moderation. And then we dip into the standards. We nominate a few standards each year, and then all of the materials get sent off to expert moderators in New Zealand who look at both the assessments that the teachers use and their grade judgments on the student work and say, yes, that's fine, 6 out of 8 grade judgments approved, 8 out of 8, 4 out of 8. And if it's only 4 out of 8, then we expect the teacher to go back and have another look at it and see how they might have changed things. I think that your teachers are doing a fine job, particularly given the fact that many of them come from various backgrounds themselves. They don't have close, intimate knowledge of the New Zealand education system, and the fact that we rely very heavily on internet access, which is somewhat problematic in UA.
Mr. Grant says that the key is that students get a qualification, and based on results from last year, with 6th year 13 students getting university entrance and more completing levels 1 and 2, these are positive developments. Once this assessment has been completed this week, a report will be compiled and presented to NZQA with comments and recommendations on areas that may require improvement. Niue's Pacific Adaptation to Climate Change project based on water resource management is gaining momentum as the government finalized the supplier for the water tank production. Director of Environment Sauni Tongatuli said the project aims to install all occupied homes on the island with a 5,000-litre water tank. However, the guttering and spouting installations is the responsibility of each homeowner or occupier. This, he said, these will need to be mounted first before work can continue to establish pipes to and from the tank, which the project will fund the piping. There is also another initiative for extra water tanks to households who wish to purchase on top of the project allocation, but these need to be advised by homeowners prior to the finalization of production numbers. The project is one of Niue's efforts to assist communities to adapt to the change in climate. One of the project coordinators, Hayden Talangi, said it was recommended that the construction of water tanks be produced on the island to minimize cost, as the valuation of the product to purchase and freight from overseas will bear a hefty $10,000 tag. That is extreme. The project is funded by the Global Environment Facility or GEF and implemented by SPREP and UNDP. Co-financing was also received from AusAid and the European Union under the Global Climate Change Alliance or GCCA and implemented by SBC. The project, which started in 2010, is scheduled to complete in 2014. The public are encouraged to contact Sauni Tongatule, Hayden Talangi, Clinton Chapman or Andres Johanne for more information on this project. Finalizing Niue's National Strategic Plan for STIs and HIV has been the focus for health staff and stakeholders from NGOs, civil society and faith-based organizations this week. The previous plan, developed for 2004 to 2008, has now lapsed and is outdated. This week's workshop is a joint initiative by the Public Health Division of SBC and the Niue Health Department to develop a more focused plan that makes note of the various changes since the last plan was developed and deals with the issues currently faced by the island. Dr. Ajayi, a monitoring and evaluation specialist from SPC, says that with the mobility of people travelling around the region and alternative lifestyles, the potential for transmission of STIs and HIV is on the increase. Despite no reported cases of HIV on the island, Dr. Ajayi says that it is important to have plans in place.
The reason that is important is that even though we don't have any cases of HIV in Niue, the determinants and the factors that can bring about HIV, they are the same time as the same factors that can bring about sexually transmitted infections. So if we have just even one case of a sexually transmitted infection, it means the potential for HIV is also there. And HIV being a much more costly and worrisome disease to manage, and if it's the same factors underpinning them, so we are killing two birds with the same stone by looking at a strategy to eliminate STI that brings about the keeping HIV at zero in Niue at the same time. So even though several workshops has been held, one of the essential purpose of a strategic plan is to bring together in one place a national framework and guideline for what we do in controlling STI and HIV so that we don't duplicate our efforts, that's one, so that our efforts can be coordinated as two. And the third is so that that way we better manage our resources and do it as one people. Either we are in health, we are in non-health, we are in the community, we are housewives, we are young children, we do it as one people for the whole of Niue.
According to the Director of Health, Manila North Star, despite not having reported cases of HIV on the island, there is still a need to update plans that will take on a collective and effective approach to minimize and prevent HIV from reaching our shores. The target is also to have these discussions completed by the end of this week.
We are going for the target that by Friday, we have the entire strategy completed because some work has been done. We are leveraging that. We complete everything by Friday. We have a document, and then we can put it on the desk of the Minister of Health and the Niue Parliament for endorsement for the future of Niue from 2014 to 2018. So this week, we are finalizing the entire strategy, and then after that, it's really just to discuss it with the government, with other people in Niue that needs to know about it, and then have the government their thoughts and comments, and then with that, we have it endorsed so that before 2014, we have what we need to run by in 2014, the plan in place.
However, he also noted that with the changes over time, there is a better understanding of STIs and HIV, and the realization that there is a need to not only revise national plans, but regional plans as well, that will be applicable to the issues present now. The aim is to have the plan finalized before presenting it for Cabinet and Parliament endorsement and to be implemented in 2014 to 2018. PESA Plus agreement is continuing its popularity in talks in the region as some countries feel the agreement is one-sided in favor of New Zealand and Australia. Officials from Papua New Guinea say they are considering withdrawing from free trade negotiations between Pacific Island countries and Australia and New Zealand. PNG's Trade Minister Richard Maru on Monday told a meeting of the trade ministers from the Melanesian Spearhead Group that his country was considering withdrawing from Pacific agreements on closer economic relations negotiations. He said Papua New Guinea is not interested in PESA Plus because their focus is the MSG trade agreement. 15 countries are involved in the PESA negotiations with the aim of helping Pacific Island Forum countries benefit from enhanced regional trade and economic integration. At previous Pacific Leaders Forum meetings, Niue's Honourable Premier Toke Talangi also expressed his concerns at the rate trade agreements were progressing when other regional agreements were yet to finalise. Some of the countries during discussions also had the view that PESA Plus would be one-sided in favour of Australia and New Zealand, with some frustrated because they can't export taro there. They won't accept the imports of vegetables either. PNG's view is that there's nothing to be gained from a trade agreement at the moment, and we will bring you more in this story into Niue's latest stance on the trade agreement. Tuesday's continuation of the netball season games were full of laughter for the young ones and on a more serious nature for the older teams. Classic Rebels took on Hakupu in a fast and furious game in Paliasi with both sides aiming for top spot. However, a dominance by Classic Rebels claimed them victory 49 points to 22 for Hakupu. Many of the young players are certainly geared for better games in the future, as they showed the experienced players they too can keep up with the game. To the younger version of the game, Aliutu and Tuapa Primary took to the lower court with plenty of fun for the spectators as the mixed teams fought it out to draw their first game on 6-all. Certainly an entertainment not to be missed, and look forward to a bright future for many of the young ones. And that is our news bulletin for tonight. We do hope you have an enjoyable weekend ahead. Don't forget to check out the Black Heart fishing competition, which should start on Saturday, as well as the Niue Island Touch Association tournament.